So Marc Maron has blown a gasket. I know that his WTF with Marc Maron podcast, I'm pretty sure it's ending. But he made some statements talking about anti-woke comedy and how anti-woke comedy won and that they destroyed the rights of people. And he just goes on a tangent, like paragraphs after paragraphs, right? Comedy should have always just been comedy. It should have never been woke or anti-woke. It should have just been what's funny, right? You can make fun of everything and anything. That's what comedy is for. It's supposed to release the tension. It's supposed to make the unseen seen. It's supposed to pick apart at society. It's supposed to make the unbearable bearable. It's supposed to point out the hypocrisies, the ridiculousness, the silliness, the craziness of being a human, of the human experience, of how we mistreat each other, all of that. It's supposed to do all of that, right? You can make jokes at anybody's expense. You can make jokes about anybody's topic. And, it's all about the context and how you crafted the joke, the delivery, the timing, all of that. I don't think that the world is where it is because of the anti-woke comedy. I think part of it is because of the wokeness. There's one thing of like pointing out things are screwed up. Like, this is the thing, when I grew up, like, I'm dating myself here. I was born in 1990, right? And so there was wokeness, but we didn't call it that. It was just, that was the reality, right? I am from Elizabeth, New Jersey, predominantly Black, Hispanic. Now I think there's more of a Middle Eastern population community. And so I grew up knowing that cops treated Black people differently. I grew up watching BET. I grew up immersed in different cultures that weren't my own. And we knew that stuff. We talked about like sexism and all that stuff, but I'll be honest, we weren't like writing essays about it, not like that, but we would talk about it, and it was what it was. And then you found coping mechanisms, you found ways to support each other. Like, we live in a world where everybody's a fucking expert on everything, where everybody has to show how intellectual and intelligent they are, when sometimes, just call a spade a spade. It is what it is, And I would say it's the wokeness, the pushing of certain ideals, and not having anything to show for it. I think that's what's caused the world to change, right? Being overly focused on race or gender has not made the world a more loving, kind-hearted, accepting place. It hasn't made people be nicer to each other. And then you could say maybe it's not so much just that. Maybe it's a combination of like technology and AI and all that stuff. But the culture is very self-righteous, and you're always going to have people who go against people who are extremely self-righteous, right? There's a lot of people online that are so self-righteous, and it's like, bitch, you cured cancer? Are you MLKJ? Like, bitch, what did you do? Just, there's a lot of people who, because they put a certain emoji in their, and both sides, they put a certain emoji in their Instagram or their social media, and they feel like they've done something. There's a lot of people who will criticize other people, not knowing who those people are in real life, or what they're doing, or what acts of charity they're accomplishing. My grandma used to have a saying, it sounds way better in Spanish, but it's something like, that your right hand is not aware of what your left hand does. I know you can make a joke about that, but basically, when you do an act of charity or do something kind for somebody or thoughtful or whatever it is, forget about it. Don't keep tabs. That's it. You don't think about it. You did it. It was what it was. You don't have to record yourself doing it. You don't have to put it on social media. You know, it's like when people post stuff where, like, it does. I really don't like it when people are like taking videos of, like, you know, helping an elderly person or something like that. I think it's different if it's not the person who's actually helping, right? Like, if it's just a bystander and you're like, oh, I just saw this and that's pretty cool. That's a little different than the person who's actually helping doing it, because it's like, you're doing this for clout. You're doing this because there's a dopamine hit. If you're making money off this, it becomes even more self-serving and less charitable for why you're doing this, right? So, I don't know. I think Marc Maron, I know I kind of went off on a tangent, but I don't think he's being fair saying that it's the anti-woke people and the anti-woke comedy, and that's why they've won. That's why the world is such a messed up place. There's a lot of factors into why the world is very messed up, but, you know, you look at, like, the woke stuff in film and in art, and film and art has become really crappy. You know, that's also coupled too with jobs are disappearing. People are relying on AI. People want perfect, unblemished people. They don't want heroes' journeys anymore. They don't want to see a person that is deeply fractured and says the wrong thing and does the wrong thing and then grows. That's the beauty of the human spirit, is the ability to admit that you were wrong, to try to right your wrongs, acceptance, regret, and then making yourself better. You know what I mean? So I don't know what he's trying to say. And, like, the other thing too is, there are podcasts that I listen to, and Marc Maron has a fairly checkered past. Anybody that's been doing comedy as long as he has, he's an older guy. You can't tell me that this man doesn't have any skeletons in his closet, right? You're a human being. I think he's been pretty vocal about using drugs and maybe alcoholism, or maybe I'm just adding this to him and he doesn't even have that background, right? But suffice to say that he's probably had interactions with women that were like, you know, you kind of look, you know, afterwards you're like, that was a little weird, or he was probably selfish. You know, he's had a pretty good career. He's known people in Hollywood. I don't believe that you could get to where he is and you don't have any skeletons in your closet, right? I think he would have had to have been ostracized by people if he was always on the straight and narrow, you know, because I've been part of what's it called? I've been part of small organizations and small companies and stuff, and those companies, if you have your morals and your ethics, you get crapped on, you know, and you start to ruffle feathers right away. So I don't know, he just sounds incredibly self-righteous, and he just sounds like he's just doing too much. There's a lot of reasons why the world is where it is, you know. Humans also, like, we're not good at complexity, we're not good at nuance. It benefits the powers that be for us to be divided, for us to be always fighting with each other. That's another thing. You know, we are stronger together, and it makes sense to keep us apart, right? And it's been like that. It's like, it's, you know, there's you and then there's the other people. But if you look at social psychology, most people are in the middle in terms of views. There's a lot of views where we're all pretty much on the same page with each other. There's always outliers. There's always people on the opposing ends of a spectrum, but when we talked about in social psychology, like the extreme left and the extreme right, it looks like a U. It's a U. And so they're so close to each other. The people on the extremes are just right next to each other, and the majority of people are just split down, right down the middle, right? So I don't know. I don't think that he's being fair. I think that he's talking out his ass. He's talking out his butt, you know. Comedy should have always just been comedy. Like, you're seeing all these people apologize for things too. Amy Poehler said some stuff too. Like, I gotta apologize. When I'm in public spaces, and, you know, if people are having a very private conversation, I'm not gonna jump in. But, you know, sometimes people are talking really loud around you. People still make race jokes, and they're not from a hateful place. It's not, I'm not around fucking Klan members. It's just people cracking jokes, you know. People still make gender jokes. People still make jokes about very harsh topics, you know. But on media and on social media, everybody has to be like, I am so sorry, I did not mean to make those jokes. You can make those jokes. You make whatever jokes you want, and then internally, you know, just you know, make sure that you're not a prejudiced person. Make sure that you care more about someone's character than whatever's going on, and that's it. It's not that deep. And also, being a human is hard. We're dealing with a lot of bullshit. You're gonna make jokes about everything. You have to. How else would you survive this, you know? Marc he specifically talked about trans people, about how trans people don't have a lot of rights, and he's saying that's all because of anti-woke comedy. Again, that's not looking at all the nuance and the complexity of the issue. There have been people who have declared themselves trans, and they've been really weird with how they go about it, right? So I think that there are trans people who just want to live their lives, who just want to have their relationships, who just are trying to get through life, and that's it. Okay. And then there's the very loud, outspoken group of people. There's people who it's like, you're doing this for attention. You have that on every side. It doesn't matter what topic it is. You're always going to have people that are too loud, people that don't have the most altruistic intentions, right? And you're going to have people that it's going to make the people that are in the middle, it's going to make them sway far away from it, you know? So, like, there was a trans person, I forgot their name. They're probably still on YouTube, but he was born a male and then transitioned to a woman, and he dresses like Miss Rachel. And he makes it seem like he's talking to kids, even though his content is not kid-friendly. That's a problem. It doesn't matter that he's trans. Whatever background you are, if you're talking about adult topics and you're trying to make it seem like it's kid-friendly because, you know, so many kids just have access to the tablet and it's going to be recommended to them, and then you're going to make money from that, there's a problem there. There have been family bloggers that have done that crap. Every video I make, it's not for kids. It's not for kids. My content is not for kids. It's for adults. I curse sometimes. I'm talking about topics that are beyond their comprehension. This is not for kids. You know what I mean? That's a problem. And people who are trans, who are active politically, that's something that should be at the docket. It should be like, yeah, we want our rights, but also the people that are trans that are being weird, we equally have to put them in their place, because they're gonna screw it up for everybody, you know? And I think a lot of people are fatigued by that. The reality is that the sexes have never really been equal. There's always been issues. There's always been issues with women not being treated equally. And The fact that there's not even a conversation of like, okay, so how can we make it so we don't take away rights from women that they've worked so hard for, but then trans women don't feel like they're slighted and they're protected as well, right? That conversation should be had all the time. Every time that a group of people tries to get rights, because humans view things like a zero-sum game, right? So it's like, okay, well, if this group gets more rights, that means that I get less rights. That's just how we view things, right? Because I guess for some cases it is like that. It's like we're taught that as a kid, right? If you have a sibling, there's a piece of cake. You got to share that cake with your sibling. You're like, fuck. And it's equal. You're like, damn, now there's less for me. I wanted all of that. Obviously, there's psychology that we have to work through. But that's a human feeling, right? Why can't we acknowledge these complex, nuanced feelings and work together to reach a common goal, which is that, you know, we should be cool and chill with each other, and we should be protected, and we should try to make it so everyone has a nice quality of life. All right, why can't we do that? And I don't know, I don't think that Marc Maron is being fair, and I don't think that he's being helpful, and he sounds like he's talking out his ass. Like, what are you talking about? You're gonna put all of that on. You won. Anti-woke comedy, you won. Shut up. Comedy should have just been comedy from the get. What's funny is funny. That's it. I'm a person, I've struggled with depression. I don't even know if I could, you know what's stupid is that I don't even know if I could say suicide on YouTube and I'm talking about something personal. That's so stupid. But I did. I had an attempt when I was in high school. I crack jokes about all that. It's how I deal with the sadness that has happened in my life. It's how I move on. It's how I take the power back. It's how I get rid of the tension over these really dark topics. So, and you're telling me that society can't do that? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. I think more so than comedy, it was the failure of the woke movement. It was the failure of not doing a good job, you know? For example, how they write women in Marvel movies, how they'll have The Last of Us, for example. It's so stupid. I saw that too, and I sent it to my friends, and it's the character. I loved her on Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones, she kicked ass. She was awesome. Her character was well written. And then, like, she finds out, because she's a lesbian on the show, she finds out that her love interest that she met for a day and a half, which the joke is, that's very true to lesbians. They be jumping in together. You know, that shit happens real quick. Like, within the span of a month, they'll be married, have a kid, have a house, have a nice garden together. It's a joke, right? But she finds out she's pregnant. And it's like, you're in the zombie apocalypse. That's a liability now. That's in the real world. If you're on a mission for revenge, and the person who you're with is like, I'm pregnant, I'm like, you stupid bitch, go back to the base. You know, you're gonna need to eat more. There might be complications. Like, you know. Why are you here next to me? And then she finds out, and then she looks at her, she's like, I'm gonna be a daddy. That's so stupid. The lesbian women that I've met and known, they refer to themselves as a mother. They're a woman, they refer to themselves as a mother. I don't understand. And then she's like 5 feet maybe, and her love interest is also incredibly petite, and they're all bringing down like 6'5" men. Listen, now if you showed them being very intelligent and setting a trap and compensating for their lack of size and their lack of strength, that's based in reality. That's interesting. That's something I could get behind. There's nothing wrong with pointing out the discrimination that exists in society, the way that we are cruel to each other, the way that we judge each other. But you lose people when you start to make it not based in reality. You know, like every female character, like she's the best, she's so smart, she looks so beautiful, she knows exactly what she's doing. That's not true in real life. I'm a woman. I'm a fuck up. I mess up all the time. I fall short on so many things. I fall short of my morals, my values, my ethics, my ideals. That's what makes, you know, my experience being a human being, that's what makes it interesting, because it's like, okay, I suck, but what am I gonna do with the fact that I suck? Am I gonna get better? And I'm gonna wallow in self-pity? And I've done all of that. I've wallowed in self-pity. I felt bad for myself. I've been on the pity pot. And then you get your ass up, and then, you know, you find something that motivates you. You find people who support you. No man is an island. All of these things that make for a very interesting and worthy story and experience. And so many movies and TV shows have thrown that out the window because they pander to politics, they pander to the woke culture, they pander to the algorithm, they pander to the internet culture, that they get upset if, you know, there's the tiniest little flaw when they're telling a story. Like, there's a lot of reasons for why the world is what it is, Marc Maron. So shut the fuck up. Shut up. You know? Like, why am I just some broad from Jersey? Why can I talk about this topic with more complexity and nuance than he, who is a professional, who has made millions talking to people? Why can I do that? This is just a case for me to get paid, actually. I'm available, guys. I'm available. You know, throw some money my way. No, I'm kidding, but not really. You know, like, it's just disappointing. Stop putting yourselves in these stupid ass boxes. Like Amy Poehler, I didn't click on the article, but I saw, and it said that, you know, she felt really bad about some of the comedy or whatever. I didn't read it, so there's a chance that there might be some of it where I'm like, okay, valid. But I listened to her podcast. I listened to the episode of her and Jack Black. That shit was boring. That shit was so tepid. It was so tepid. It was like, you know, when water, it's neither cold nor hot, and it's just, it's almost unappealing. Like, usually warm water, it'll, like, okay, it's warm, but it veers more cold, veers more hot. But it's like so tepid. It's so, like, I don't know, boil it or throw some ice cubes in it, because it's so unappealing. That's what they were. It was, you know, and Amy's like, yeah, and she's chosen this podcast voice that doesn't have her same energy and enthusiasm that her characters used to have on SNL. Jack Black, like, these people were very funny when I was growing up. You know, they were I enjoyed Amy and SNL. Jack Black's movies were hilarious, School of Rock, and, you know, just his characters, like, growing up, you're like, oh man, it's so funny. And then to be an adult and to listen to these two adults have a conversation and to be bored out of my mind. It was so depressing. They didn't really talk about anything substantial. They didn't have anything interesting to say about the world that it is today, and crack jokes and get some levity and get some fucking humor. It was just a fucking snog fest. It was so bland and uninteresting. I'm like, really? So maybe it's not the anti-wokeness. Maybe it is. It's too much woke, right? It's wokeness that doesn't have any bite to it, or any talents, or anything funny or interesting or exciting to say, you know? I'm a fan of George Carlin and Richard Pryor and Bill Hicks and Patrice O'Neal. And now you could say that there are moments, you could look at their humor and you could be like, there were moments that were anti-woke and there were moments that were woke. because that's what it was. They were just fucking funny, and they would just rip society apart. They would rip humans apart. Bill Hicks and George Carlin, they would be antagonistic towards their audiences. Patrice O'Neal, more so on the Opie and Anthony show. Richard Pryor, I don't know if he was too antagonistic. Probably not. I think he was more incredulous. Like, he would just, like, he was able at pointing out, like, the silliness, you know? But we've lost that. Being woke should not mean that you become pacified and that you become a neutered version of yourself. You should be tougher because the world demands it. The TV show Primal, I love that show, and it shows you survival has always been hard. Survival has always been brutal. And if you want to change society, especially in the term, and change society for the disenfranchised, for people of different backgrounds, for people with disabilities, for people who are just the underdogs of society, you got to be tough. You got to be sharp. You got to be witty. You got to be cool. You got to be wiser. Oh my fuck. I make myself laugh. But it's true. You do, you know? Don't be this neutered fucking person that isn't able to point out humor and isn't able to point out hypocrisies on all sides, because that's when you get people to change. That's when you get somebody who might be veering too much to a side, and you're like, okay, I could see this, and like, that's kind of cool, and like, that's when you get society to kind of work together. Stop with this bullshit. Stop with this self-righteousness. It didn't work. It didn't fucking work. How far did it move the needle? You know, I'm sure that there have been some things that have gotten better, because I don't want to also do black and white thinking. I'm sure that there have been some ways that society has gotten better, you know, but overall it's a big slog fest. No, you know, it's like I criticized the movie Sinners. It's not a good movie. It's a mediocre movie. I'll probably make a video about it. And it was like me and my friend, and we're just cracking jokes, and it was just, man, we had such a good time just making fun of that movie, because it's not written well. It's a vampire gangster time traveling musical set during the Great Depression, but they never utter the words Great Depression as far as I remember. And so I criticized it. And last night somebody left a comment, because I criticized it on a channel where the creator also criticized the movie. And I was like, yes, I wouldn't have an issue with the movie, but it's like people who are like, oh my god, it's amazing, it should be nominated for an Oscar. For someone who is so desperate for better art and music, like, that sucks to hear. It's like, no, it's like, it's a B movie at best. And if it would have been so much better if it had accepted it was a B movie, and it was just balls to the wall, and it was just, you know, if it broke the fourth wall, oh my god, it could have been so much fun. But it took itself too seriously, you know? And the person left this comment and was like, because I said it was a DEI checklist, because it was. It's like when they have the Choctaw Indians, they just show up and they just leave. They served no purpose to the story. The Choctaws had a very interesting culture when it came to killing their enemies. They had rituals associated with it. They could have shown them for how tough they were, and then they could have shown them be afraid of their vampires, and then it lets the audience know, like, oh crap, these vampires are scary. You know what I'm saying? It creates some stakes. That movie had very little stakes. It's just sucked. Nothing meant anything in that movie. And the person commented back and was like, just say that the only movies you like with black people are the ones where they're killing each other. And I got pissed. My criticisms were constructive. It was a DEI checklist. It was. If you can take the characters and you can replace them with whatever other race or nationality, they served no real purpose. they were just like, okay, we gotta make sure we got an Asian, we got blacks, we got the one Irish dude, we got the 2 Native Americans. Like, what was the point of that? You know, they failed. There have been other movies that have featured the KKK, that have talked about race, that have been acted so much more better, that, you know, like Mississippi Burning. There's so many movies that you can point to, that you can watch, and you're like, damn, this is a movie. Sinners, in 5 years, that movie won't hold up. It's just hyped up now. It won't hold up, you know? And it was very disappointing. The person could have had a discussion with me, and like could have, you know, because of this, because of that, because of this. But then they went way off the deep end, and it was like, well, clearly you're a racist and you only enjoy black people being put down. Shut up. It's the opposite. I would like for movies with predominantly black casts to strive for excellence. I would like that for anybody. I like it to be better. And it's okay to be a B movie or a C movie, but be aware of that. Take the piss out of things. Crack some jokes. There are some B and C movies that have some very poignant moments in them. Like, I love the Flintstones. I do, with John Goodman. I love that movie. I genuinely love that movie, and it has so many cute little moments. It you know, talks about friendship. The Flintstones, they get a whole bunch of money, and the Rubbles, like, their friendship suffers. That happens in real life. Halle Berry is like the very attractive, of course, because she's Halle Berry, the very attractive secretary. And, you know, John Goodman, who plays Fred Flintstone, he like looks at her and he's like, wow, she's very attractive, but he's not going to step out on Wilma. And he talks to her and he's like, I know that you're smart. And she's like, you know, a lot of people don't treat me like that. They just see me as attractive. So it shows you the person that Fred is. Like, yeah, he's obnoxious and he's kind of a blowhard, but he's very sweet with a big heart and very loyal to his wife and his family and his friends, and he sees the good in people. That's from a fucking, like, I don't know, that movie's a B movie, C movie, but I fucking love that movie, you know? So Sinners could have done that, but it was just so disappointing that the person was just like, you just want to see black people get shot up. I'm like, shut the fuck up. Nah, man. Shut up. I like all different types of movies featuring black people, okay? Fuck. The fact that I even have to argue that is so insane. It's so insane that I can't even have constructive criticism about a movie because it features a predominantly black cast. That's crazy. And even in my comments, I said that. I was like, you know, it's really nice to see movies like that. I want to see movies with predominantly different cast of, like, whatever race, nationality, creed, and I want it to be funny and engaging and have interesting stories, and, like, you know, you want it to be something new but still something that is good or great. And Sinners failed, and it's just wild. It's wild that that's the culture we're in. It is very easy to get got. It's very easy for a human being to be brainwashed. Our brains are very malleable. We have so many, like, biases, and there's cognitive biases, and it's not just nature versus nurture, it's our perception of our nature versus nurture. Like, I loved social psychology because we just went down the rabbit hole, and our professor, he was so awesome, but he really changed my opinion on things, because I was way more liberal. It's easy to get got, right? And my values, morals, and ethics have never changed. I root for the underdog. I don't believe in any of the isms. I do believe that humans have more equality. You know, of course, there's always discrepancies in that, because, like, a person can choose to be an asshole. They could choose to be a dick. You know, some people are better than others in certain things. You know, there's complexity and nuance to this, but I'm a softie, and I root for the underdog, and I'm disappointed by human beings, but I genuinely love human beings. I genuinely love being a human being myself. Flaws and all, I love it, right? And I root for all of us. But it was very easy for someone to take my ideals and kind of contort them and make me think that what they were saying was true, right? Because I used to fall into that. I used to think that all conservatives were terrible people and they were racist and this, that, the third. And then, you know, I had a conversation with somebody online, and it was actually about hunting. I'm not a fan of game hunting. Like when people go to Africa and they have this high powerful rifle and they're killing a lion from like 500 meters away. To me, that's fucking stupid. You know, go kill the lion with a fucking machete. And there's a tribe that does that. That's fucking tough. That's fucking tough. Like you want to go show your superiority over another creature. Make it a fair fight. I don't think that that's a fair fight. A high powerful rifle 500 meters away, to me, I don't see the point. And so we were talking about it, and I said, I was like, to me, that's shooting fish in a barrel. But we talked about how, like, you know, I also noted my own hypocrisy. I'm like, I'm a carnivore, you know, I've never killed an animal, but I eat all the different types of meat that exist. So I also pointed that out. And you know, the person was like, oh wow, I was impressed by this conversation. It was an actual conversation between two people with opposing views, and it didn't turn into like this shit show. And like that started to change my mind, right? And I don't know, you get older and you're like, yeah, I'm more in the middle. Like things are not black and white. Things, you know, there's nuance. There's all these, there's 7 billion people on this planet. You're going to tell me every single case is the same? Like, we will have some ethics, morals, and values that are concrete. And then you meet a case, you're like, ah, crap, we got to figure this one out. We got to figure this one out. There's always outliers in statistics, right? There's the average, and then there's outliers. But I don't know. I know I rambled. I hit a lot of topics. But yeah, it was just so corny and cringy to read that. I'm just like, Mark, just fucking chill out. You know, count your fucking lucky stars that you've made it this far. Nobody has come out, as far as I know, and said stuff. I just know things from the niche podcasts that I listen to, that people have said some things about him, and he's not the greatest person. Now, that doesn't mean that he doesn't get to have his opinion, but it's like, again, it just shows the hypocrisy of humans to be so incredibly self-righteous when it's like, sir, what landmines are you sitting on right now? You know what I mean? Like, let's those, and I think, how many times in psychology have we seen that, where it's like the person who is so self-righteous, who is so or homophobic or whatever it is, and then it comes out like, oh, actually they were gay. Oh, actually that person that was so self-righteous, ooh, actually they were a monster. We've seen that over and over and over and over again. The reason why I'm more understanding or more in the middle, because I know I'm a piece of shit. You know what I mean? I have fallen by my ideals, and I'm like, fuck, I really don't like that about myself. And I've had to become better and do what I have to do to just not be a piece of shit. So I offer people more grace. But when you see people that make things into a black and white issue, that, one, they're coming at it from a very emotional place. And those are the people where it's like, all right, tell me why you're doing this. Let's talk about it. Let's decipher this, because you're doing too much. You're doing too much and not enough at the same time. It's stupid. It's dumb. You know? So yeah, though, that was my oh man, I had to look up to the sky. I had to be like, today's Wednesday, right? That was my Wednesday ramble. It's hot as fuck in Jersey. It's hot. So I'm gonna go try to cool off. So yeah, let me know if you make it. I don't know, this was a long one. I always ramble, man. I was just like, and then I'm here, and then I'm over there, and then I'm here. I tried to do better. I tried to do better. But yeah, let me know what your thoughts are about the, I even hate the fucking word, anti-woke or woke, you know, and how divided we are, and how we could be more united in these crazy times. But yeah, hope you guys are doing well. Stay cool, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.